What's up guys, it's Chris Majestic, and today we're going to be checking out a 1080p wire-free camera known as the Reolink Argus, so stay tuned. So over the past few years, it seems like every company has come out with some type of a wireless camera, and recently companies have been coming out with wire-free cameras. Well, a company called Reolink, which is known for making surveillance cameras, has just released a 1080p wire-free camera known as the Reolink Argus. So Reolink did send me a copy of this camera out for us to check out today, so I'm gonna give you my honest opinion on it. Now, before I start, if you haven't already, go ahead and take a look at my security camera guide I did a few months ago. That's got a lot of helpful information where I explain things like wire-free cameras. And if you don't know, wire-free means the camera has absolutely no wires. This means it's going to use a battery for power and Wi-Fi for connectivity. So some of the other wire-free cameras that are out there have actually gotten criticism for either being too expensive or having lackluster image quality. And it seems like Reolink has been paying attention to those concerns. Not only is it wire-free, but it has a 1080p camera, it doesn't require a base station, it has an SD card slot, and it costs under $100. Now, to be fair, the place where the other wire-free cameras shine isn't just in the camera, but in the smartphone apps. So some of the popular wire-free cameras out there like the Arlo, Canary, Ring, and others, they have really polished and intuitive apps. So today we're gonna see how Reolink stacks up against its competitors. So first, let's start with what you're getting in the box. So of course you're gonna get the camera itself. You're gonna get a fixed camera mount, which is good for using outdoors. You're gonna get a magnetic mount, which is much like the Arlo mount, a pack of screws, a spudging tool to open up the camera to get to the batteries, 4 CR123 batteries, and a reset pin. Now, as far as features go, this is gonna have 1080p video at 15 frames per second. It has two-way audio, night vision, motion detection, IP65 rating, which means it's weather resistant, live streaming, an SD card slot, a built-in siren, a wide 130-degree viewing angle, email and app notifications and alerts, and it's also gonna come with a 2-year warranty, which is really nice. Now, installing this camera is really easy. You're gonna put the mount wherever you want and then just attach the camera to it. Now, the magnetic mount is very similar to the Arlo mount. If you didn't see my Arlo review, go ahead and check that out, but it's really easy to position the camera in whatever angle you want with this mount. And setting the camera up in the app wasn't too bad. So in order to set this camera up, you're gonna fire up the Reolink app, let it know you're setting up a new camera, and then you're gonna scan the QR code on the back of the camera. And once you do that, it's gonna show a barcode on your phone screen, and then you have to hold your phone in front of the camera until it picks it up. Now, this can be a little bit tricky, but I found that holding your phone about 6 inches away from the camera worked just fine. But overall, the setup wasn't bad, and it actually took me under 2 minutes. All right, so now let's get into the camera's performance. Now, right off the bat, I can tell you that this camera provides a very sharp, crisp 1080p image. Now, you do have several image quality settings on this camera, but there are two things that you're gonna wanna pay attention to. It's gonna have two different modes. One mode is called clear, and the other mode is called fluent. So as I said, this is 1080p at 15 frames per second. So in clear mode, it is gonna be full HD, so it's gonna be really sharp, but it's not gonna be as smooth as the fluent mode. So in fluent mode, it's gonna drop the image quality a little bit to give you a more smoother video playback. So if you have any doubts about the video clarity of this camera, here's a side-by-side comparison of the Reolink Argus and my Amcrest 1080p PoE cameras. Seeing that it's nearly as sharp as the Amcrest camera, I'm definitely impressed with the image quality. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the apps. So as I said before, the apps are definitely the bread and butter of these cameras. Now, this is where I do think there is a small shortcoming for this camera. So the camera itself works really well. The app actually does have great functionality, and it has a lot of options that you don't find in some other camera apps. But it's not that intuitive. So it does take a little bit of tapping around to figure out what's what. So here you can see that's your battery. It'll show you here. So this will actually show you how much battery you're using on those days. So that number that you see there, that's gonna tell you how long that it was actually active or it was actually recording, because it sensed motion. And you got your video recording button that's gonna record on demand. As you can see, you've got your record icon in the upper right hand corner there. And you've got fluent or clear. So as I was saying, you do have two different modes. You have a fluent mode and a clear mode. All right, so now on to playback. So this bar that you see that has the two arrows in the middle, that's gonna show your date. The first bar you see at the bottom, the top one, that's gonna be where you're scrubbing in the day. So the time of day, and the bottom bar is gonna show the 24 hours. And then once you find the scrub to the part you want, then you hit the play button, and it's gonna stream whatever that video clip is. All right, so this is gonna be the clear mode. So this is 15 frames per second at 1080p. So you can see my face pretty clearly getting out of the car, and it's gonna stop and it'll pick back up once it senses my wife pulling into the driveway. So it only does a few seconds of recording, and then if it stops, if it senses that the motion stopped, it'll start back up again. So it only does a few seconds. It is pretty annoying considering there's constant motion in the frame. I'm not sure exactly why, especially considering if you want to download these recordings, you end up having to download 25 clips where it could have very well just been 2 or 3. All right, I just hit the download button, so it's gonna download this clip. So it's gonna download that clip straight to my device, which is awesome. That's a really good feature, to be able to just, to download it off the device without having to take it down and pull the SD card out. All right, so now let's take a look at the two-way audio and night vision performance. So this is an outdoor sound test. I'm about 8 feet away from the device. See how good it is with some background cancellation. And this is the night vision, so this is mostly dark. There's not much light shining on me right now. All right, so as you can see, the night vision really isn't bad. This is in mostly darkness. I don't have any of the light, just talking at a kind of a normal voice. I'm gonna back up so you can see how far we can pick up my face. So now on to one of the most important things that most people want to know, and that's going to be battery life. So they claim that you can get up to 180 days out of the camera in standby mode. So standby means that it's not sensing any motion, but it's just ready to start recording if needed. But they do tell you that you can expect up to 840 minutes of battery life with constant motion recording. So instead of leaving you to wonder what kind of battery life you might get in a high traffic area, they tell you right up front what to expect. So that 840 minutes works out to be about 14 hours. So with the camera in my driveway, I've calculated that I can expect about 5 to 6 weeks out of it before I'd have to replace the batteries. Another good thing is that you can actually buy rechargeable CR123 batteries. That way you can just charge them when you want and swap them out at your leisure. So overall, this is a pretty good camera for the money. It's just not perfect. The first thing is that it has absolutely no cloud recording. Now, to be fair, Reolink has mentioned that they may be adding this in the future, but right now, if you want cloud recording, that's not an option. You're gonna have to rely on the SD card slot, which is an added cost since you have to go out and actually buy an SD card. Now, one thing that I didn't like about setting the camera up is that I wanted to set it up on more than one device. Now, unfortunately, there is no cloud login for this camera, which means that like with some cameras, you create a login, you set up the camera, and then you can always add the camera to other phones or other devices by simply just putting in your login. This wasn't the case with this camera, so the only way that you can add the camera is to actually go back through the whole setup process again. Now, fortunately, you don't have to actually scan the barcode on the back of the camera. You can scan it from another phone that's already connected to the camera, but unfortunately, this doesn't really help that much. It definitely would be helpful if they had a cloud login, so all you had to do was log into another device instead of being forced to go through the setup every time. So even with those few shortcomings, I do still think this is a really good camera, especially considering the price. So when you consider the fact that other cameras that are similar to this one are double the price, it changes everything. Now, some people may not think that 1080p video is that important, but when you're dealing with things like surveillance and you have it outside, like in front of your house, if the camera is not clear enough, you're not going to be able to pick up a license plate or a face depending on how far away it is. So really high image quality is everything when it comes to a surveillance camera. So as I said before, it definitely looks like Reolink was paying attention to what people didn't like about wire-free cameras, and they've addressed a lot of those concerns. So I expect this camera to definitely get better as time goes on. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this video. As always, if you found this video helpful, go ahead and mash that like button for me. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section. I'll respond to your questions, and I'll see you guys in the next video.